Welcome back to another episode of APositive Insights. Today I had the pleasure of being joined by Adrian Byra from Lead Group, long-term client of APositive. I really enjoyed this episode. Adrian, well, we talked a lot longer than we expected. Some of the things you really enjoy in this one. I really like the way they diversified in different sectors and how they did it. I think you take a lot away from that. So enjoy, listen. Rule of the podcast, please like, please share, enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of APositive Insights, and today I'm joined by Adrian from Lead Group. Hey Adrian.
Hey.
I appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
I'd like to obviously kick off the podcast. Do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Adrian Byra. I'm one of the original partners here at Lead Group.
Yeah.
So we started Lead Group about 5 years ago, but prior to that I was with Randstad, a few other boutiques in my career of 15 years or so in recruitment and in Australia, originally Canadian.
Yeah, awesome. And obviously those years in recruitment, were you in a specific industry?
Oh, I was. I always laugh about it. Not only a specific industry, I was in pump manufacturing is what I did, and not only pump manufacturing, but I had the same 6 clients total, and just ran them, and whatever they needed I took care of. And I don't know, probably my fear of new business just stuck me with account management and being really good at account managing.
Yeah, brilliant. I definitely wouldn't put you in the manufacturing space.
Yeah, and I fell into that. I can't remember, it was one cold call that developed in the space when I first early started, and then snowballed from there, and then pump manufacturing was it.
Yeah, so you mentioned you fell into manufacturing, but did you fall into recruitment? Was it planned of yours to get into recruitment?
Like half the industry didn't even know what recruitment was. In Canada, it was, it's bigger now in North America, but it wasn't as evolved, I guess, as the Australian market. And classic, to stay in the country, the recruitment company that sent me out to a direct competitor of my company back in Canada said, all right, well, yeah, your visa's not going to get approved for manufacturing, but we can do it in a week, and we'll give you a visa and teach you how to recruit and pay you about half of what you were going to get in a sales manager job. And then there I was, right?
Love it. And it's a win-win both ways, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if recruiting under duress is the right strategy, but hey, it's what happened for me, and I was.
It doesn't just happen in recruitment, definitely.
True, but yeah, and then it developed. I think by the time I was able to leave recruitment, 2 or 3 years later, I had actually developed a new career, and it surpassed the career that I had originally fallen into in Canada, and here I was, and kind of liked the two-sided interaction and all of the dynamics of it. And then, hey, 15 years later, here I am, still.
Here you are at Lead Group. The next question for me would be just to understand, where was the tipping point? What led you to actually setting up Lead Group?
I think the gap in the market, and myself and Lee Loughlin, my business partner, we spent over a year planning Lead Group before starting. And I think the big thing that we saw was, to scale a recruitment company, there was so many companies that would build that based on mediocrity. So build it, and I understand why. It's very easy to cookie cutter a company by dominating one specialization space, getting a few great people to build out desks and then chop them, right? And chop them and cut them off for a new person and create that value prop for a new recruiter and so on. We didn't see a place that actually ever scaled a company of high performing individuals. And I think Lee and I think even in Randstad, and I'm not signifying Randstad, it was a great company in a lot of ways, but I saw so much mediocrity in that company, and so many people that, recruitment is a great job for somebody who's winning. It is a terrible job if you're losing in recruitment, and I can't stress that enough. If you're not gonna go all in and commit, do something cool. I think I did a post the other day, be a scuba dive instructor or something fun. Because recruitment's not fun if you're not going all in. If you're using recruitment to propel you somewhere, recruitment's amazing, because it can take you places that no other industry can. if you're willing to put it all in. So I think we developed a place, like ultimately what do we want to be? We want to be the best recruitment company for the best recruiters in the world. And that has been, the narrative has changed over the 5 years, but that has been the most consistent part of our company, is everything that we think about within the company is how do we take the best people in the industry and how do we keep building a better support system, a better moat around them to allow them to achieve new heights.
Yeah, okay. So how do you actually do that? Like, how are you attracting people and how do you help them develop?
I think the development and the attraction are two separate things, right?
Yeah, okay.
I think
Tell me about attraction.
I think to attract a great person, you need a great value proposition that speaks to them, right? So I think that's in the first year, we needed to build a dream. Luckily now, 5 years later, I think it's not just a dream anymore. People are seeing it and people are seeing that journey.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to tell the story in a lot of ways when you start out of what does that support system look like. And we knew, okay, if we want $1 million billers in our offices, then that attraction strategy needs to be perfect for them. So we got to figure, okay, what is that? And you will look at that. Look, I think, yes, we pay more than a lot of our competitors. I think that's such an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But again, when you look at it, the dynamics of our commission structure, it's not the best commission structure for average people or below average people, but it is the best commission structure for above average people. And if you look at a lot of companies, they're weighed down by unproductive headcounts. We can afford more because our average biller is way beyond productivity. And so by everybody coming along for a journey within an organization and have nobody pulling the organization back, the organization can then give more to the high achievers. So it's ultimately like the only way it works is if everybody achieves.
Yeah.
And that stems, great things where if you look at often I look at a lot of like high achieving sports teams, right, and compare it in a similar way. And the only way a team wins is rising together and pushing each other in a great way. If you've ever watched the documentary Momentum Generation,
I've heard of it.
Love that documentary because it's all about the 10 surfers that Kelly Slater and his buddies that I should know all of their names, but I don't. At one point there was, out of the 10 friends that would just every summer fly to Hawaii, their buddies, and sleep on their buddy's floor and surf together. Out of them, there was a point where like 7 out of 10 of them were in the top 10 best surfers in the world. And there was no like physical attributes that made that happen, but rather it was all of them built like a way to push each other and safety at the same time, and found that balance. Instead of competing against one another, they kind of rose together.
Yeah.
And so if
I
you,
quite like that.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I
It's
really like that. I should watch that, definitely.
It's well, when you watch it now with that lens, you'll realize that you take that concept and very similar concepts throughout a lot of teams. If Netflix is getting so big on these different dynasties and whatever that they're pushing through.
Yeah.
If you look at it with a business lens, it's pretty interesting stuff as far as driving culture and growing teams. But I think, ultimately everything around our business can be built, or it's possible to build what we've built because we don't allow anybody to not grow and not be productive. And I think that's the sad part that drives away so many high achievers in the recruitment industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I suppose it's quite different though, isn't it? Like attracting people when you first set up, like when you're just you and Lee in a small office, no one really knows who Lee are. Like, how do you attract people at the start? Who is that right person to bring at the start, like that first hire? Yeah,
and I think that is a really tough journey for like everybody who starts out but first I think recognizing, I think there's a few different strategies you could go after. Ours was, Lee and I balanced each other really well because he was a really, really high achieving consultant, and Ricardo, who also is a junior partner of us starting as well.
Yeah.
Both of them highest achievers in their business. And so we had that value proposition of bringing somebody who's maybe not quite at their level yet and saying, hey, you get to sit side by side with these guys and learn, right? I wish I was that guy. I was not. So I was more, Lee was the guy that could attract people. I was the guy that, you know, creates a support system to help them get to that kind of elite level.
Yeah.
So I think that was ours. I think if we think back to that, how could you get there if you're a one-man band and you yourself are not super high achieving? Where do you start? I think a good realization of actually who do you have a value prop for and going after that rather than just hoping that you're going to land on somebody that's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I think that's probably even when I talk to other businesses now, and I do, because we have a company called the Outsource People that gives resources to our competitors, and it kind of mocks or mimics some of the strategy we have here of resources within the Philippines, helping and driving top of funnel stuff through to the consultants to allow more productivity. And so I talk to a lot of the other leaders, particularly smaller businesses, and I think they have this idea that they are going to attract some, their next great consultants just around the corner without the plan of how that's going to happen, or even understanding that their value prop is not a differentiator at all, and they're literally creating the exact same value as everybody else, and they just think it's going to be a situational thing where they land it, rather than a well thought out of who is perfect for our business and who are we perfect for, and figuring out that balance. I think there's a disconnect there, a big disconnect.
Do you want to tell us more about the Outsource People and how that's helped your company grow and obviously others? I'd love to get your opinion on obviously supporting your competitors with that Outsource People model.
Yeah, I think we back 4.5 years ago started probably a little ahead of the curve. Started with within working in the Philippines, and look, I think COVID would have helped us learning how to manage remote individuals and things like that. So fast forwarded that, and very quickly built in here, I guess just the balance of communication between the two cultures and how to work well together. And then 2 years later realized, wow, we're it's a major differentiator for us. And it drove, like last year, every single consultant in our company had a personal best of their career. And I mean, these are guys that have 10 years experience, 12 years experience, ups and downs of economies, every single one of them grew. I think that would be a decent part of our strategy that worked.
Yeah, right. And you feel that's down to the support of the resources?
I think that directly a big part of it, but then also the indirect behaviors that get created from it, because the more a consultant starts recognizing where the most value comes from in their time, and the more they start jotting down and practicing, okay, this is a great task for somebody else because I'm now elevating and getting better and using my time for more valuable items, the more that awareness kicks in. And then the more you get the shift in the culture where people value their time and they weigh up every single thing they do in a day and how many times they do it in a day and how easy it is to, offload that. And if you think about the setup of pushing that, and building a process and pushing that out to an outsource head, very similar to the next stage of that, which is building out the process perfectly so you can automate it, right? And so it's almost a great stage. And if you look at our people in the Philippines too, we've been driving automation not as, hey, this is a fear factor, it could replace your job, but this allows you too to grow, right? Yeah. So as much as people here say, hey, I'm too valuable for this now because I have 10 years experience, this person in the Philippines has 1 year, so I'm going to give it to them. At 18 months, they start saying, hey, I'm doing this 10 times a day and it's pretty monotonous, I'm getting pretty bored. I need to create more value for the company in my day. I'm going to get the developers to then automate this. And it's almost like a growth chain down the company. And so,
yeah, brilliant. Look, it's absolutely key, isn't it? You shouldn't be scared of technology. You should really be leveraging technology to enable you to do better.
Yeah.
Talking about your PBs with like some of your team, like, can you give us an example of what a PB was pre-implementing better processes to what it is now?
Okay, I gave the average of the company last year was $880,000 per head count. So GP to FTE was 880,000. So the average person in our company.
Yeah, wow.
In that, there was a variation of 500 to 2 something mil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it shows, a lot of very high achieving consultants have come here and within 18 months have doubled their billings.
That's amazing.
And if you think about, most people would know a traditional type commission structure that well over doubles their earnings because obviously the numbers over threshold pay them out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Which is cool because it makes me not managing people, but I'm really helping people with their own little mini businesses.
Yeah.
Because they're way past the whole worry about hitting threshold and blah, 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 but rather they're my business partner and I'm helping them steer their business to keep acquiring more and build more support around them to get them to the next stage.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously people are billing big dollars. Is there any concern that they may potentially leave? And if they do come to you, say, Adrian, hey, I'm potentially going to go and set up my own business, like how do you react?
I mean, technically that hasn't totally, that did happen 4 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Once, and I think it was, cool. Like, what could we do? Before you think about that, is there value that we still offer that we can work together on?
Yeah.
Or is this, what's the reasoning? But I think as long as there's still cultural alignment, yeah, I mean, it's growth, right?
Yeah.
I think as long as leaders have the ability, let's say we grow this company to 200 people one day, right? I have the ability to impact 200 people's lives at a certain point in their life. Or I have the ability to impact 2,000 lives over the course of their career based on how I exit people. And whether that's their decision or mine, right? It's if, I tell everybody here, my favorite conversation is an exit conversation.
Right.
And
your favorite, that's got to be.
I don't know if that should be on a podcast, but in a positive way, it's like and I don't know, not everybody's been fired, right?
Yeah.
I have been. Yeah, I was
never been fired.
not. Well, you're one golden boy, right?
No, yeah.
I am not. Right? You learn a lot from getting fired.
Yeah.
I got fired because I was a server at a restaurant, and 1 week in, it was Father's Day, and I dumped a drink on somebody, and then somebody swear to me, and then I can't remember. It's kind of a blur the day, but I got fired in a week.
Yeah.
And how that exit happened, I will remember every word that leader said to me, or manager at the time said to me, right? And we don't have to repeat what he said, right? Something like I was awesome and all of this great stuff, and it's due to external factors. No, but if you think about that, that one 10-minute conversation with somebody could be the most impactful conversation of their lives.
That's really powerful, though.
And it could be, I'm getting sensitive now, but it could be an upward trajectory or it could be down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Based on what you say in that moment. And they could blame external factors, like I just made that joke and say, oh yeah, screw Adrian, it was because of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or I can communicate it effectively so they understand it's a disconnect between that environment, and I can help them find the right environment and totally change everything.
And that's happened?
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. We haven't thankfully, here in the last three or so years, we haven't really had anybody leave the company, but we've had a few that we've kind of had to mutually figure out the right environment for them, because we've got to, basically people here achieve. And if not, I help them find a job with one of our competitors.
Yeah. Right.
And we certainly don't. Every single time we've had to move on, we've helped them find a better setup. That's probably some of the recruitment I still do, is then I know a lot of people because of Top and being in the industry for a long time, and I connect them with the right place. And luckily, when you're a high achieving organization, even if someone's not quite getting it with you, they're still quite, for them to come to this company, they were already kind of a high achiever anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't have options.
Yeah,
and then we work through that. And it's a really powerful thing with safety, about all of the employees. They watch you when that exit happens, and they know what happens, and it's really powerful about what that creates as far as a level of safety in this company and in this culture, based on them knowing, even if somebody says, all right, you know what, your journey's cool, but I'm out of the journey, and they see how you react to that. And so your question of, you know, what would I do if somebody said, hey, I want to set up? Yeah, I'd see if there was a win-win, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we have, like I said, probably hasn't happened in the last few years, but COVID, when it was a little tougher and there was ups and downs, we had a couple of people leave, and I mean, I still talk to all of them, right? Our ex-employees are still invited here to hang out. There's still, hell, they've been top clients, things like that. We figure out ways to help and keep connected, and that's the important thing of continuation. I think that's how you grow a company too, right? Yeah. It's just because somebody makes a decision right now, it's not right for them, doesn't mean the whole relationship has to disappear.
No, definitely. With this industry, recruitment industry, it's a very small industry, so you don't want to burn any bridges. And so yeah, you never know where your paths are going to cross again.
Oh, fuck. I've ran the same pump manufacturing space for so long, right?
Exactly.
You'd be amazed that, you know, by the end of it, my candidates 15 years ago are all running the companies, you know, now, and they, and it's amazing what comes around. Like, I've just watched it again and again happen by helping somebody when they're down and no one else is helping them, but you at least give the time, even though they know there's probably not a lot in it for you.
Yeah.
People don't forget when you help them when they're down.
No, that's right. So true. I just wanted to go back to like when you first set up the business and just get a little bit of insight into some of the challenges that you come up against and how you actually overcome those challenges. I know it's wild.
People, it's not that. It's people here say I am quite an optimistic person. So I actually forget the challenges a lot of the time, because every time we face a challenge, I get really weirdly excited about it. Like COVID happened and everybody was freaking out and saying, oh my God, the world's ending, right? That is probably the most thrilling moment of my career, because cool shit happens in COVID, right? And but like but like I said with the, you know, an exit interview or moving somebody on, it's like, man, the amount of people that were forced to change and impact their business because there were problems. I mean, us same, like we were talking about it earlier, that we needed to create, we connected with you guys through APay because we needed to come up with something. Would we have done that if we didn't get pushed against the wall?
Yeah.
Right, but instead it forced us to change, and I just think it's neat that it pushes, you know, I lived in Bondi at the time, and the amount of cool concepts that came out of restaurants in Bondi that, you know, created weird pub crawls on the street and got licensing for that, or Blair Street Dairy then started driving their Instagram on their cookies, and now they have cookies in Woolworths and stuff, and probably 3/4 of their revenue are from the cookies that came from their cafe that they had to drive through FMCG because Woolworths and Kohl's were selling through the roof, and they were, you know, screwed. Would that have happened if COVID didn't? Probably not, right? So I think it's exciting to watch people challenge, you know, back against the wall and push through. And I think with us, COVID was a big thing, you know, and everybody asked, you uncomfortable? No, we're okay. I think COVID slowed us down, you know, and we had to, but I think we learned a shitload. I think a lot of our time in COVID was, COVID produced now a company called the Outsource People, right? Would that have happened if we didn't find Jem? And Jem we found because she had gotten a redundancy from COVID. Jem's now our country manager and running.
So who's Jem?
So Jem's a country manager that sits across. She has, you know, a country manager of Top, a country manager of Vidora, another HR tech company we have, country manager of Lead Group, all reporting directly to her, and she's managing the entire Philippines. And, you know, whatever 100 heads that she, you know, came, I guess we got somebody in that was over-spec'd for the role because out of necessity she needed a job. You know, that got us to learn that space, and, you know, we fixed it with a Band-Aid, and that Band-Aid developed into a well, you know, thought out strategy that started with a mistake. Well, mistake, or, you know, a situation that came from backs against the wall.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So initially, the Outsource People was set up initially to support Lead Group, and then you saw the value added to you, so you can potentially add that to others?
Yeah, I think it actually started internally, and then I had a bunch of friends in the industry that were like, Adrian, how do you guys do this? Can you help us? And then I helped a bunch of friends, and then it started, they started saying, good things about it, and saying, oh, can you help us more with it? And then they started telling friends, and then we thought, holy shit, like this is a thing.
Yeah.
We have going, and then started actually, 2 years ago, strategizing what does this look like if it is a business? How do we build the top infrastructure, sell to our own company? What does that do? Every decision we make through the entire organization is, our first value is people first, right? And so we go through each decision we make as an organization is we go through our values and say, does this tick each value? Yeah. And first one is, okay, does this help our people? So originally, yes, we created the entity over there because we wanted them to get healthcare, and we wanted them to have gym memberships like us, and we wanted all of these, value props. And then you start realizing, holy shit, nobody leaves. Like, we've had no one leave in 4.5 years ever in the Philippines. We had one, Gracie left for 2 months and then came back, and that's it.
That's amazing.
And when fear and safety is the biggest drivers in the Philippines, and we take care of everybody that we have to exit, and we help them get another job, and then nobody else leaves, and we give them health care, and we give them their parents' health care, and all of these things, why would they? Right? It's and so I guess it just, we started to realize, shit, like, we've got something here. And the fact is, when productivity in recruitment is mainly based on tenure, right? Like, if you have a recruiter stay for 3 years, the network effect starts taking, and they're doing the right activity, it's slowly, they grow, right? The network gets built out and their productivity keeps going. Same with resources. If you can keep headcounts and you can keep people in the same job for a number of years, they will become productive. So if you look at us now as like a BPO or an outsourcing supplier to our competitors, that's our value prop, right? We attract better people like we do in Lead Group because we have a way better value prop than our BPO competitors, and we keep them. So when you guys are investing in your new resource or headcount, you're not investing for the next 4 months. We can tell you wholeheartedly that there's a very good probability that person's going to be working with us for 10 years. And our tenure is their tenure, the client's tenure. So that's that's probably where the value prop came from, and that's why it's growing dramatically now.
Well, it's working really well, isn't it? You've got, 100 now in the Philippines. I always refer to you guys as well, when I'm obviously having that conversation with clients that are in that stage where, like, do we hire someone onshore? Do I hire a resourcer or a recruiter? The conversation always comes up that's potentially worth a convo with you, and you can show them like true value because you've done it. One of the things is interesting I find is, how do your competition feel about you owning a recruitment agency, having the Outsource People? Obviously, there's a little bit of potential conflict there.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that conversation that potentially not stealing their candidate base?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, like I said with, as mentioning Jem, the country manager, the only overlap is we have one headcount reporting into somebody that sits across the organization. So branches are in completely different islands, not only cities, but totally separate. By the way, another, as an example of just a mistake that turned into something, accidentally hired somebody in the wrong island. Don't ask me how that even happens. And then instead kind of leaned into that and said, well, why don't we just separate, if we're going down this runway of outsource anyway, why don't we just separate that and build a branch around this separate area and build that out, because we will run into confidentiality issues and conflict issues anyway. So it's great. Yeah, very separated cultures. Everything's completely different. They're completely different entities. Like I said, top sells to Lead Group, now, so we're no different than any of the other
recruitment
companies.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, which I think covers that. Obviously contractually, there's confidentiality clauses with contracts, clients, all of that stuff we take care of. But I think most of our clients actually really like it because that's, our 4-year journey, they can fast forward and skip, right? Because of working with us, and that is our value prop. So yeah, if somebody is worried about that, I mean,
you can easily overcome it. And that's the selling point for me when I mention it, that they're trained by people in recruitment. You onboard them, you train them on go, and you hand them over. And if there is any, like, we wouldn't refer to you if we knew there was an issue.
Yeah, I think that that's probably the stronger value prop. Yeah, like you said, just like you guys, specialization is the value prop of the future.
Yeah, big time.
And so that tends to work quite well. But yeah.
No, good. Can we get a little bit into like the temp and perm split? Obviously, you set up with APO with us at the start when you're predominantly in perm. You've grown. Why did you set up a temp business, and how did you do it?
So we, like a lot of people, started in perm because perm is high margin money. And it's very difficult to start off on a temp base without a decent amount of financing. So I think it was about after 2 years roughly, and the tumultuous COVID time that we started up temp. And yeah, like you said, partnered with yourselves around the payroll aspect, because obviously getting into labor hire and contract is a decent amount of investment, decent amount of infrastructure involved, all of that stuff. Certainly partnering with external guys like yourself helps that transition, and helps until you figure it out too, right? Like I remember too, it's nice having friends in the industry, because I called a lot of them to be like, so I'm going to do this and I don't know anything about it, right?
Perfect.
In Randstad, yes, I had contract desks, but operationally I knew nothing that happened in the background, right? And I was so pillared and segmented. So I think we are growing. We're always aiming for a 50-50 temp to perm split. Temp is amazing. It's an amazing, basically, infrastructure continuation. That's the value of the business. It's a big moat where, if somebody leaves, there's big continuation, so you can drop somebody into that temp base and all that. Very difficult to scale a company without a temp base. And then that 50% allows us enough profit margin, or pushes our profit margin high enough to continue our growth. So obviously, yes, if we decide in the future to slow down growth a bit, we might tailor that split and get a bit more temp. And then within the 4 subsectors of our business that we're diversifying to, we want that 50-50 split in each. And they're very different sectors on purpose, so that any economic situation, maybe other than COVID, I don't know, anyway, most economic situations that happen in the future, we can simply shift our headcounts into those 4 sectors, because not all 4 are going to drop at the same time. And I think that's a big frustration you see with a lot of specialist agencies that sit in one area, and they basically rise and fall with that sector. You've seen it most recently in the tech space. People grow these massive headcounts when the boom happens, and then they're laying off people, and it just, to be honest, when our value prop is people first, that doesn't work, unfortunately. Yes, it's a great cash grab, very difficult for us to sustainably do that and hand on heart say we're putting our people first. But you have those subsectors, you can always, and you upskill your whole team, so that if something bad happens in one, you shift the headcounts. And it's important to make sure you have enough room in the other 4 sectors too. So the reality is we can't grow headcount-wise in the same capacity as some of our competitors, because it's not doing our people right.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's what I was going to ask actually. Like, obviously, you're specialty manufacturing. That's what you focused on initially, but then you sort of diversified. You pretty much covered off the why, but was that purely just to diversify the risk?
Yeah. Well, diversifying the risk protects our people, right? And for somebody that says like we're safety first, and we make sure the company. And that's, by the way, that's included myself. It's not totally selfless, right? I also want to build a company that protects me and everybody in that company.
Yeah, of course.
That's the power of a company in itself anyway. The company serves the people and the people serve the company, and it's a two-way street, myself included. And diversification covers that. And especially if you pick what we do, I think it's difficult. It would have been a lot easier to just grow one space and, cookie cut those roles and piggyback one desk off of another. So, you have to find pillars, but I think we did a really good job at finding a few of the leads, and I think we had a bit of a roadmap of we want four subsectors, and we don't want them all to be.
So what are the 4 sectors you're in now?
So we're in aged care,
Yep.
prof services, then construction, and then manufacturing and trades. So those 4.
So those are your 4 pillars.
Yeah.
Are you going to look to add?
No, but I mean, in saying that, prof services, that's kind of a growth area. Like, there's a lot that can be captivated in prof services, and we've got our eyes on a few different areas, but leave that for now. But I think it's I think there was a few different areas we could go in, and then we kind of assessed who's the right person, who's our lead that's going to run that, and we more just picked the lead and built around them. And again, if you think people first strategy, it's the same with Jem in the Philippines that I was saying. We pick a great person, realize she's amazing, let's build something around them, right? And you back the horse. We do that consistently in this company.
So someone looking to replicate what you've done, to say they've got one industry they're focused on, let's just say it's an IT recruitment agency, they're looking to diversify, like, how do they do that? Like, maybe tell someone.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, if I wanted to move into another sector right tomorrow, I would find somebody that wants to, probably finds that middle ground of thinking about setting up on their own, but it's a big back step and a lot of hard yards that maybe they're not quite ready for and don't think that's right. So we chuck them, equity within that subsector that they know and we don't, and we build the support system around them and let them go, right?
Is it a risk just having one person?
Pardon?
Is it a risk just having one person come in?
Sure. Yeah. Typically, you'd want to right off the start, and it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
I think the risk is only what is based around what the person wants and doesn't want. Yeah. There are people that are like, no, I just want to build this thing myself. And actually those people keep pushing back to say, no, don't give me any more. That's another problem, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I like the tandem approach, and especially balanced. Like when you look at myself and Lee, we've really balanced skill sets, right? There's no lead group if you pull one or the other out. And so looking for that balance in each subsector is something we've been very into.
Yeah, okay. So the people who are coming in, would you say they're 360 recruiters? Like, are they doing their, obviously the BD side and the resourcing side, and then you're carving that out when they come in?
Yeah, I was going to say to start, and again, it depends on the person. We have trialed it where we've dropped in a resource or even before they've started to just build out that one side. But I think the problem is when I talk about balance, it's so much better to have a 360, starts at 360, understand their strengths and weaknesses, build a job spec based on what they hate. Or build a job spec. Most people hate the stuff they suck at, right? Yeah. So build all the shit they suck at, build all the stuff they hate. Now we've got a job spec to pair up to you, and that's your growth. I think it's a better, more ideal growth strategy.
Yeah, I like that, because obviously what we said in the past is focus on what you're good at and outsource the rest.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for your time today, Adrian. Like, just to close off, like, anyone that's considering or currently in that startup phase, with one bit of advice you can give them, what would it be?
It's the same thing that I tell all the recruiters here.
Yeah.
Is don't worry about big impact, big changes, big everything. Build a long-term goal of what you want in 3 years, and then just every day look at just doing 1% better. And I know that's stupid and so many people say that shit, but it's incredible. Like, there's 2 things, external factors you can't control as a recruiter. The external basis of your market, right? And luck. Yeah, and I know people say, oh, you make your own luck. Luck is a thing still, right? No, you don't want to let luck define you. But I think so people here, they'll do a quarter of 200 grand, and the next quarter they'll fall to 140. And I say, well, don't make that change your strategy. That's probably luck and external factors. You're still on the same journey to 250. Yeah. So just ignore you're a 200K biller that had bad luck this time, and you might have good luck at 240. And so I think keep saying, okay, next quarter I'll do slightly better. So here we only look at 6-month intervals. I think it's a great way to look at it and say, okay, this is a pushing quarter where you're going to have a new PB. Next quarter, just fix your belief system. Make sure that, yes, now it's not a fluke. You did the hard work. You have the process in place to do that new number, and then you have a pushing quarter again. I think that's the best, and I think about that within this business. Every quarter I'll build some new process or new thing, and I don't expect the world to change or us to do amazing things. But year on year, over 5 years now, but who knows how long, it keeps getting better. So putting a time frame on things, I think, is people's biggest mistake. And we don't do that. One day we know we're going to be somewhere, but it doesn't have to be today. It just has to be slightly better than yesterday.
Yeah, okay, just small continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. And set a long-term goal.
Yeah, and I think sadly most people don't do that. Or they talk about it, or they set a goal and then they forget about it, and they don't mention it day in, day out. Right? As a leader, you want to be as boring as fucking possible. Like literally, you want the people in there to know what I'm going to say before I say it. Okay, guys, remember, we want to be the best recruitment company for the best recruiters in the world. Do you know how many times they hear me say that?
No,
right? Because that creates the regimented daily behaviors, and every decision that we make daily is this helping us get to that goal? Are we accommodating these values that are helping us get to that goal or not?
I like it. Brilliant. Adrian, appreciate your time, mate.
Thanks,
See you.
See you, pal.
Thanks.